welcome back. Last video was long. This one is also long, and contains perhaps even more challenging puzzles in some respects. We're going to finally read some stuff that we've been waiting many videos to see what's up with, and really start to see how much deeper this rabbit hole is going to go. But first, let's resolve that cliffhanger, because no one should be left dangling much longer. So, as a reminder, after being placed on top of a door at the end of the Dream Labyrinth, we were put into a failsafe area due to otherwise being soft-locked, this being the focal point. For right now, all we have here is some strange symbols, a door back to the hub, and, most importantly right now, a door towards Zero, the cruel place. In here, we've got a fair few levels, all accessible freely, returning to the old world-style format rather than the great beyond that we were dealing with before. Additionally, and perhaps more interestingly, there's a more mysterious door behind a 12-lock stone door, which we can presume will get that 12th key by clicking this world, same as in ye old days. So, with nothing else left to do here, let's just get this done. This is our first level showcasing what this world is mostly all about, which is mostly not solving any real puzzles. So, in this case, we can just appreciate the painting and then walk to the exit. This is also effectively just a pretty normal level. Since every key and door is mod 8, we can just solve this as if it was all 1 key pickups and 1 lock doors. We have a first open to start, but then we have to pick between the top or bottom white lock for orange or purple. But this is a false issue that we've seen before. If we went bottom, we just get orange to get white again, effectively wasting both orange and white with literally no gain in progress towards the exit, so we just go top for purple instead. We are then given another choice immediately, and if we go bottom, we then have to fully commit to this path before anything else so we can actually progress up top. That effectively spends 2/3 of our white pickups, but given that there's 2 white doors up top gating another white key, we simply can't take this route without soft-locking. So, once more, we just go up top. And then once that decision has been made, there's really nothing else that matters in here. You can just pretty safely make whatever opens you want, grab whatever keys you can, and you will end up getting out. This level is just a bit of playing with the hitboxes of this, but once you get your key and find the sweet spot, you'll be getting out of here very quickly. This is basically the closest thing to a minigame you'll get in Lockpick, so enjoy it while you can by using the negative master keys to jump and grab all the pures. Or you can just pick up the exact 20 below if you're boring. But I'm not, so I'm going to play out the awesome way of winning. This one's pretty intimidating to start, but like the description says, it's more of a proof of concept than an actual challenge. You can pretty easily brute force it once you find just one chunk of the logic, but just for the sake of it, I will go through it all, for fun. So going through the mandatory doors just one by one to begin. The first one subtracts 15 plus I black, with the rotor then making your negative I count real and positive, and your real blacks imaginary. Then our masters will be unstarred and set to 2. The real keys we get from that rotor will then be subtracted from our master count, so if you open that first door 2 times, opening the master door will then set you to 0 masters. Lastly, for the start, we're negative rotored, which effectively brings our blacks back to what they were before the first rotor. Now, the real meat and potatoes of this all comes more towards the center. The first door afterwards will always be openable, as we will always have negative I by then, and it removes said negative I. But after that, we need either 0 black or negative real keys. Since we start at 140 and lose black at the start in increments of 15, we obviously can't reach 0 black, meaning we must open that first door at least 10 times. For now, we'll set black aside and get back to that later, but to move past it, the orange is what we'll focus on. The bicolored blue will always end up setting us to 55 orange, and the following bicolored white will then remove 55 white. Then that final door requires us to spend all the negative masters we'll have on said bicolored white, while still keeping some amount of positive white after clearing it. Given that orange can't be brought below 0 in this level, nor to 0, we must do it through this route. To make this a bit easier to understand and work through, we can put this in algebraic terms instead. We need to open the black door b times, where b is greater than or equal to 10. But b minus 1 times 55 needs to be less than 500, where b minus 1 is obtained from b plus 1 minus 2, since there's always at least one copy of the door to be opened, and of course negative 2 simply represents the count of negative masters relative to b, which is always 2 less than b. We can then simplify further on the secondary equation, showing that b minus 1 is less than 9.0909 repeating, but since we're working with integers exclusively here, we can just round up to 10 to make that simpler. Not down, despite the intuition that you learned from school, since in this case no decimal between 9 and 10 can be obtained and thus actually be relevant to the problem. Now, with one final simplification, by adding 1 to both sides, we see that b must also be less than 11. This leaves exactly one possibility for what b can be, which is of course 10. And now that we have a solution, we can put it into action. Recall that b is our amount of opens on that first black door, meaning we need to add 9 copies. From there, it's more or less a straight shot to the exit with a pit stop at the bicolored white to clear our masters as discussed, letting us leave feeling smarter, even though we could have just brute forced this the second we learned that we had to open it at least 10 times by just trying it on 10. The door has what in it? Anyways, this level is just running around the door area, matryoshking down the colors until we can leave, so I'll just let that play out. I wrote that this level was hard without math, but it's not. It's just incredibly time-consuming without math, so we're going to do math. The quickest way to reach a number, via your standard multiplications at least, which it just so happens these doors can do, is via exponentiation. That is simply multiplying a number by itself in times, e.g., 2 to the power of 3 is 8, where 3 is n, and thus 2 times 2 times 2 is equal to 4 times 2, which is equal to 8. Exponentiation also works in reverse, with some caveats that aren't particularly relevant here. Thus, since 2 to the 3 is 8, in reverse, we can say that 8 to the 1/3 is 2. Now, for the level itself, to apply this, we have 5 doors, meaning we can subject any number to the power of 5. More precisely, each stage of the door will result in the, number to the power of 1 through 5, once fully opened at least. For example, if we needed 2 to the 5, we'd need a duplicate of the first door, open it twice to reach 2 cyan, aka 2 to the 1, then do the same for the second to reach 4 pink, 2 to the 2, repeat thrice more to reach 16 white, or 2 to the 5. So, to apply this what we actually need to do. This means the objectively quickest way to reach 1 million white from these doors is by opening each door about 1 million to the 1/5 times. That, of course, is not a perfectly round number, so similar to last time, we round up to an even 16 opens, in this case, of each door. Now, note that this still means you have to add 15 copies to every door. And there's nothing you can do to speed that up, really. You can make it a little better by adding a copy of the next door while opening the previous, but this is a relatively minimal time save at the end of the day, as you still have to add a total of 75 copies. But, hey, at least you know that this is the quickest way, objectively, to solve this level. And with that finished, the world is too. Very quick and definitely a breath of fresh air from the more mind-bending stuff that we've been dealing with, but we're not going to end the video here as I normally would. That'd just be way too short, and I don't want to leave you on a cliffhanger again, so let's see what's behind the 12 lock. Here we can see the omega symbol on a static monitor, and some kind of counter, and a strange map thing of squares of the various colors of keys, notably all of them containing a symbol quite similar to those on these strange keys that we've been seeing throughout the Great Beyond. Upon interacting with the center tablet, we finally get some answers to the question running in the back of a new player's mind. Those strange keys were Omega keys, and they unlock the ability to modify Salvage's colors, including both the lock and spent color. Furthermore, by finding these, we can unlock unique perks, with our first being just for a single key, unlocking new salvage points. However, we still don't have any of them, so we can't really do much here yet. The color map above the tablet might imply a rough order, but it's still not clear where to start exactly, so where can we turn to learn some new information? Well, where else but Kina? She's been here to provide fun tidbits of info and a bit of tutorializing, so why not see if she has anything to say? The most blatantly impossible. Most of these have been impossible due to key constraints, either straight up not having the color accessible, or not that type of key, such as an imaginary one. More impossible than that would have to be literally unable to be opened, even hypothetically, including via Masters and Browns. Well, if we know that rough criteria, and we know where these keys are isolated to, that being in the Great Beyond, we can start looking for something that meets that requirement. T1 sports a few keys, orange, black, and cyan, but all are definitely theoretically openable. T2 is similar in only having a few, white, brown, and purple, but here we do have a door that meets the criteria. White's door sports both negative and positive blast locks on the same door of this same color, meaning it's physically impossible to open traditionally, and then moreover, due to its blank pure, it couldn't be made brown, no master. But just to be thorough and safe, let's check the remaining Omega keys, if only to know where these various colors are located. T3 only has one key within a level itself, being the pink in level 1, but again a fully, albeit hypothetically, openable door. And lastly, for T4, the keys are again in the levels, with green in level 2 and blue in level 5, but once more, both are tangibly openable doors, hence fully showing that white is definitively our starting Omega key. But now the question is, how do we get it? Obviously, as we just discussed, the door is impossible to open, but there is a conspicuous hole above it, which is not a feature that any other of these keys share. So perhaps if we can find a way up there, we could grab it through that instead. But as is, it is still impossible to reach. By process of elimination, the only way that we could theoretically get up there is via some sort of stepping stool using a salvage. If we could get one that's taller than what we currently have down, but still reachable, we could make it. Our highest point to jump off of is up top across salvages 9 to 11, so let's look into that level and see if there's anything that's taller available to us. And indeed, immediately, we can see that there is something. If we solve this level mostly as normal, but instead salvage the bicolored black, we could almost certainly gain enough height. Specifically though, we would need to salvage it on 9, because the others are too far away from the side that we actually need to get to. But with that said, we can do said salvage and make our way over. With our first Omega Key obtained, we can now head back to the lab and see what's up, what's changed. Firstly, as it was promised, we can now edit effectively any salvage point to involve white either for the lock or as the spent color. Secondly, we can unlock the first Omega perk, which creates some new salvage points apparently, though we've yet to find them immediately. And last but not least, we can see that for 3 keys, we'll unlock another chapter of the Great Beyond. Given that many of the more esoteric key types, Omega locations, are still unknown to us, perhaps we'll find them in there. Okay, that actually wasn't last nor least. There is also this obelisk that appeared after opening the first perk, which, let's see what it has to say as well.
Tina holds something close to her heart, something locked infinitely tight. Choose the 4 salvages that open it up, and you shall behold a wonderful sight.
Well, this is important, and we will get back to this. For now, I want to focus on the Omega Keys for the remainder of this video, but I rest assured, we will come back to it. For now, though, we need to find out the next step. Since we now have the ability to add white to a door, we either need to find an Omega Keys door that either directly needs white, or can access white to obtain an otherwise unobtainable color. And back in T1, the orange Omega Key does indeed need exactly 4 white. Nothing else, very simple, for its door. So, we'll start there. As a forward, we will be solving all of these much the same. First, by taking note of everything we have access to at a baseline wherever we have to open the door, and then, if necessary, we can look through the salvages we can make both in the levels and overworld until we see something that can work with that in addition to our Omegas. To start that pattern here, in the overworld we have 100 cyan, 3 green, a glitch star key, and -8 black. Obviously none of the first few are going to be able to get us positive white by the nature of doors, so we'll need to use a negative black lock of some sort with a white spend cost to get us some positives. I'm not going to go through every salvage here, as there is exactly 1 door that could theoretically match what we actually need, which is, a negative lock and either black or glitch, which that is exactly on level 5. The salvage itself is relatively trivial, done by just setting the glitch state to red and then opening it. Once it is then salvaged on SID 3, we can head over to the lab, change the spin color to white, open the blank black in T1 to get the state set to black, pick up our black, and open the newly crafted door to get 4 white. So, we can finally open our first Omega Keys door. So, with orange now available, what's next? Well, looking through our known catalog of keys, there's definitely no way to get black, nor that much pink from anything for cyan. Purple does contain orange, so it's a strong possibility, while brown clearly is gated by cyan at some level. Now, while T3's pink is unnotable due to clearly needing purple, something has changed in the overworld. Something is now beneath the stepping stool that we built, and by changing the blank lock to be orange, we can see that it's another level, as well as various output points and a new salvage one, SID 30. And furthermore, perhaps unsurprisingly, the level itself sports the output points we saw outside, 32 through 34. However, no SID 31, and more importantly, no Omega Keys. So, while mysterious and intriguing, we will once again shove this under the rug and continue looking for other stuff. So finally, for T4, green is impossible due to needing black editing, proven by just giving a glance everywhere. The only black doors available are either imaginary or blank, hence a real and negative black isn't naturally obtainable. Red, which I think I forgot to mention earlier but it was irrelevant so whatever, is also unobtainable, needing negative green and blue, which would either require the other 2 Aura Omega Keys or a way to get an I key for each of the Aura Keys imaginary doors, neither of which is possible. And lastly, blue is also not doable, needing either a negative master or some serious key shenanigans to get that many eye keys of any color in the overworld. Again, neither being currently possible. Additionally, T4 sports the missing SID31 from T3, right in the hub above good old 22. But again, we're ignoring that for now. And while we've pretty much narrowed it down to purple via process of elimination, we also could have just gone and asked Kina again, and she would have confirmed that it's purple next anyways, so let's just go work on it. But before we do, I want to note that Salvage 29 is in fact here in T2, and similarly, in T1, we can also find Salvage 28, meaning that each of these areas has some salvage for something that we're going to do in the future. But we'll figure that out later. For now, let's get back to actually getting the Omega Key. So to start off, we've got to get positive orange, and now there is just so many permutations of how to do it, since we've got two key colors that we can bring in however we want. So we kind of need to abstract this problem a bit. So in this area that we're working in, we have effectively 6 unique doors that we can actually work with, and a copy potentially available of one of them if we don't need the 4 pures towards the bottom. Because of the nature of the pattern of doors that we need to get the exit, we're going to need at least 4 unique doors dedicated towards directly affecting the orange. Whether that's increasing or decreasing the count doesn't matter, and then the other 2 can be free to do something else. Now, if the master is used to get our pures, then we need 5 of the doors to be dedicated to orange directly. This, all in all, sets a bare minimum count that we now can work around, thus letting us exclude any solution that would require more or less of non-orange and orange doors, respectively. Now, the other key bit of logic, we basically can't do any simple sign flips from negative to positive. We all can probably recognize the aura-colored sign flips as a good option to get to negative orange, but no such easy way back to positive exists. This means we need some secondary key count to increase our orange, but it of course has to be enough to actually bring us over the line, and not just back to 0. For example, if we got 50 orange off our negative 50 pink, we'd then have to further decrease our pink so we can tow it back to a positive count after opening, for example, an Aldo. To continue down that example more generally, it cannot work due to requiring a sacrificial salvage to clear the 50 pink in front, a further pink door to lose some pink, and of course the bicolor pink to actually give us orange. On a first glance, this may seem still viable, as it only uses 2 doors to affect pink, which is valid. Even the somewhat precarious door to make us lose some pink is possible, because we could change one of the bicolor pinks in level 1 to have an orange lock. But the impossibility is shown upon trying to reach positive thrice. We would of course start with the bicolor pink giving us orange, then we could lose 1 pink, sign flip off one of the level 7 salvages, and open the bicolored again to take us to 1 orange, using our master key in the process, which also leaves 2 doors from level 7. The only keys we then have are pink and positive orange, so while we can sign flip to negative 1 and then open 1 more door, since there's no pink locks in level 7, we cannot go positive again with what we have. This means pink is off the table, and this same logic applies, but even more glaringly, for the other natural colors here, leaving us with only 1 secondary key type, that of course being white. This will still require at least 2 doors dedicated towards white, leaving the other 4 as orange, which works out with our previous counts. Again, with regards to our general actions, we need to repeatedly go positive and negative on orange, 3 times positive and twice negative. With 4 doors dedicated to orange, that means we have to use our master to go positive once, meaning we can ignore copying anything else. And in terms of going positive, we only really have one option, that being the all or negative blast door in level 5. Level 1 contains nothing that can gain us orange, and level 7 has options, but they are limiting via taking a fixed count, with the all door allowing the needed flexibility of actually gaining more orange by modifying our white count. Because of that, we can lock those in as such. This leaves gaining white as only being possible from level 7, since level 1 would require orange to make happen, and we can't use pure since we need our master. Furthermore, since gaining white is the start to all of this, it has to take a pre-existing key to give us the white, which can only mean one of the ores. Thus, we just have to change the spin on one of those to white. This leaves the other two as forced sign flips, making everything but the blank orange. Finally, how to actually lose the white, which by process of elimination is via level 1. I'm pretty sure it doesn't really matter much what door you choose here as long as it's got a cost to it. The idea is that you change the lock to orange and spin white. Thus, you can offset the modularity of orange with respect to white. So, when you open the all door, you aren't just bringing orange back to 0, but rather pushing it over, as previously discussed. The only caveat to your decision is that if you made the blue cost door give you white, you have to pick a 1 lock door, as you obviously can't open the full lock with -2 white. So finally, with that and any door editing needed, we've got our salvages. So, to finally summarize this long-winded process, pick up your respective aura and gain some negative white from it, open an all door to gain orange, open the positive lock, open your other white door to gain some more negative white, then sign flip and open the negative orange. Now you just go back and forth, opening an all door, sign flipping, and opening the last all door that you mastered. Finally, letting you open the last orange lock for our third Omega key. With that finally in our pockets, we can unlock Chapter EX, the Garden of Dreams. And, of course, we can now edit purple into salvages, which will inevitably be used for our future Omega keys. We can also see that the next unlock is behind 5 Omega keys, unlocking a new world. Not a chapter, but rather something that, when completed, will grant us a stone key. To briefly look at our new unlock, the chapter is quite pretty, sports its own terminal to edit salvages, and, most importantly, a sign confirming speculations. The remaining 4 Omega keys that we haven't seen are in this world. However, it also explicitly tells us that these will not be obtainable until getting the ones that we already knew about. So, I think our path forward is fairly clear. We'll get the 7 remaining Omega keys that we've actually seen, and then likely move into the garden for the final 4. And then past that, the world is pretty much our oyster. For now, I am going to choose to leave things here though. We've made some very substantial progress through the Omega keys and the game as a whole, and if my memory serves, the rest of the ones from here are going to go by a lot quicker. Many have got stricter logic and limitations, while purple was very open form and thus took a lot more work to actually decode. And thus, because of all that, I think we're probably going to lump all of those keys into just one video. And fair warning, while I quite enjoy the Omega key hunt, we are also getting into territory that's a lot more unfamiliar for me. I did get them all on a save, like, well over a year ago at this point, but the exact way to get them is, it's left my brain, so we're going to be kind of discovering this again together, in comparison to most of the things up to this point where I more or less knew what to do. And so, beyond that, I know the next world is going to be tricky. I don't think I've ever finished it on my mostly complete file, so that's going to be fun. There's also going to be that mystery of the new salvages and obelisk, which we will inevitably look into, but we're probably going to leave that until after the Omega keys are all found, just to kind of keep the flow of this series in a, logical order. But I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about. So yeah, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and I hope to see you for the next one. So yeah, see you then.